Making headlines this hour. The Special Awards Committee opens nominations for the President's Award for Special Achievement. The Parliament unanimously backs President Dr. Mohamed Muizz's nomination for the country's new Chief Justice. And government proposes sweeping amendments to the Tax Administration Act seeking to fortify fiscal discipline and reinforce oversight. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Abdullah Ahil. And now the news in detail. The Special Awards Committee opens nominations for the President's Award for Special Achievement and published the award criteria in the Government Gazette. Applications for nominations for the President's Award for Special Achievement will only be accepted via the designated portal Form Hushahelung on the President's official website apply.presidency.gov.mv, and nominations will be open until 2 p.m. on the 15th of September. The President confers the award to individuals whose exceptional skills and performance are a source of national pride and who have made substantial contributions to national progress, and similar to previous years. The award features 4 categories this year. The first category is dedicated to individuals who have attained a Maldives Qualification Authority or MQA Level 10 qualification for publication of research in an international journal, and those who have completed qualifications between MQA Levels 7 and 9 at the highest standard and attained the highest grade for a research project or dissertation. The third category is dedicated to innovative and enterprising individuals who have presented practical resolutions or outstanding solutions by conducting academic research on critical national challenges. The fourth category is dedicated to exceptional creativity and innovation that enhance national development. Youths between ages of 18 and 35 are eligible for the awards. The Special Awards Committee advises all applicants to adhere to the guidelines for document submission during the application process. Applicants are reminded to have their certificates attested by a lawyer certified by the Bar Council of the Maldives. This year, the President's Award for Special Achievement will be conferred during an official celebration commemorating the Republic Day of Maldives. The Parliament unanimously backs President Dr. Mohamed Muizz's nomination for the country's new Chief Justice. President Dr. Muizz nominated Abdul Ghani Mohammed, a former Justice of the Supreme Court, to serve as Chief Justice a day earlier, which was approved by the Parliamentary Judiciary Committee after review. President Dr. Muizz nominated Abdul Ghani Mohammed, a former Justice of the Supreme Court, to serve as Chief Justice a day earlier, which was approved by the Parliamentary Judiciary Committee after review. During the Parliament sitting on Tuesday, 62 lawmakers voted in favor of the committee's recommendation to approve Abdul Ghani's nomination as the country's new Chief Justice. The vacancy followed last month's retirement of Chief Justice Ahmed Muttasim Adnan. To identify a successor, the Judicial Service Commission or JSC launched a formal selection process drawing applications from 3 candidates: Abdul Ghani, Shujwa Usman, the former Chief Judge of the High Court, and Abdullah Muhammad, currently serving on the Family Court and previously Chief Judge of the Criminal Court. Interviews with all 3 applicants culminated in the JSC's recommendation of Abdul Ghani for the role. In accordance with constitutional procedures, the President advances a nomination based on the Commission's advice, subject to parliamentary ratification. The Secretary General subsequently read the President's correspondence before the Parliament, after which the nomination was formally referred to the Judiciary Committee for deliberation. Abdul Ghani brings to the candidacy more than 2 decades of experience across multiple tiers of the Maldivian judiciary. He served on the Civil Court from 2000 to 2004 and then spent 14 years on the High Court, including a tenure as Chief Judge. His appointment to the Supreme Court in June 2018 concluded in December 2019 when the Parliament voted for his removal following a ruling issued by the court. Since last year, he has held the position of President of the Tax Appeal Tribunal. The Judicial Service Commission or JSC opens applications for the vacant position on the High Court bench a day after one of the nominees withdrew his application. The JSC has reopened the opportunity to apply for the vacancies by 12 noon on the 12th of August, with interested candidates asked to apply for the post through the Commission's Fahires portal. JSC has been forced to invite fresh applications for a spot on the High Court bench after one of its nominees, Muhammad Shahid, withdrew to uphold judicial integrity following mounting criticism over his nomination. Shahid, in a letter to JSC, asked the judicial watchdog to withdraw his nomination for the post of High Court judge, as he wished to uphold the integrity of the First Appellate Court following question marks raised over his political affiliations to the ruling party People's National Congress, or PNC. Shahid's withdrawal came after the JSC had scheduled his swearing in for Sunday, as the other nominee, Abdullah Jamil Musa, was sworn in. The two seats in the High Court bench became vacant following the appointment of former High Court judges Abdullah Hamid and Muhammad Salim as Supreme Court judges. The High Court has 11 judges in total. The High Court serves as the court of appeal for all decisions made by lower courts and tribunals, except those legally exempt. The basic salary of a High Court judge is $2,964 per month, along with a living allowance of $1,168 and a risk allowance of $214 per month. High Court judges are also entitled to medical insurance and phone allowance as stipulated by the Parliament. The requirements for judgeship include being at least 25 years of age and holding a first degree in Islamic Sharia or law, or both. At least 5 years of experience in the judiciary or practicing law, or both, is also a requirement. The government proposes sweeping amendments to the Tax Administration Act, seeking to fortify fiscal discipline and reinforce regulatory oversight. The bill, introduced in Parliament by Villamale member Muhammad Ismail on behalf of the administration, sets out to intensify penalties for tax-related offences and broaden the enforcement mandate of the Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, or MIRA. Central to the proposals is a provision empowering MIRA to determine tax liabilities in cases where required statements are not submitted. By codifying guiding principles for such assessments, the amendment aims to formalize unilateral determinations within a more robust statutory framework. Accompanying these changes are revisions to MIRA's remit for audits and investigations, clarifying procedures while enhancing its authority to recover outstanding revenue. The bill addresses the punitive dimension of fiscal enforcement, noting that under existing law, tax evasion is punishable by house arrest for a period ranging from 3 months to 1 year. The proposed legislation increases the severity of such penalties, replacing confinement at home with custodial sentences of 3 months to 2 years. In parallel, it introduces newly defined offenses that include the authorization of false statements, the omission of required information, mishandling of financial records, and intentional non-payments of taxes. Measures targeting procedural lapses are strengthened under the bill, which replaces the current sanction of house arrest for 1 to 6 months with custodial sentences of equivalent duration for failures such as non-submission of tax statements or supporting documentation. Offenders may also face fines up to $16,212.6. Non-compliance with requests from the Commissioner General of Taxation or their designated representative is among the infractions subject to enhanced penalties. Another dimension of the reform concerns non-tax government receivables. Presently under the Attorney General's jurisdiction, responsibility for initiating legal action to recover these funds would be transferred to MIRA. Attention is also given to statutory timelines under which legal proceedings for tax-related offenses are currently required to commence within 2 years of the violation. The amendment introduces exceptions to this limitation, particularly for breaches involving missed registration deadlines, failure to submit required documentation, or the withholding of payments. The proposed legislation is set to enter into force upon parliamentary approval, presidential ratification, and its subsequent publication in the Government Gazette. Government reveals that the recently inaugurated international bunkering services have led to the generation of $10.1 million in revenue in less than a year. International bunkering services were launched in the north of the Maldives in September last year with a government investment of around 20 million US dollars. According to the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade, the service generated revenue of 2.9 million US dollars in the first 3 months and has been steadily increasing from the turn of the year. The highest revenue from bunkering services this year was recorded in February, March, and April, posting over 1.3 million US dollars for 3 consecutive months. Bunkering revenue for this year includes January with 649,000 US dollars, February $1.4 million, March $1.4 million, April $1.6 million, May 521,000 US dollars, June $849,000, July 882,000 US dollars. The bunkering operation is carried out by State Trading Organization or STO in partnership with Vitol, an international energy and commodities firm. To facilitate services, 2 vessels are deployed, each capable of carrying approximately 4,000 tons of oil with refueling conducted offshore while ships remain at sea. Bunkering revenue generation by area includes Ihavan Dipolo, 236,000 US dollars, Kaf Atoll, $8.4 million, Nunu and Vav Atoll, $1.6 million. The primary objective of this initiative by the government is to diversify the national economy beyond its reliance on tourism and to increase the resilience of the economy such that it is less vulnerable to external economic shocks. The government projects that the bunkering services will generate an additional 400 million US dollars, creating a new industry valued at $390 million. The government is set to introduce a new essential commodity price index within the next 48 hours, marking a further step in its efforts to regulate the cost of staple food items consumed nationwide. The announcement is made by Mohammad Saeed, Minister of Economic Development and Trade, during an interview on PSM News Rajamir, the program. Economic Minister Saeed described the index as integral to the administration's strategy for ensuring affordability and availability of essential food supplies. He pointed to the government's effective price management during the past 2 Ramadan months, attributing the sustained stability to timely and preventative measures implemented since assuming office. The index, to be developed and overseen by the National Bureau of Statistics or NBS, will monitor monthly price trends across a curated list of 162 baseline commodities. A central component of the index is the identification of 35 critical items, commodities considered non-substitutable due to the lack of viable alternatives. Minister Saeed noted that these items will be subject to heightened scrutiny, allowing authorities to apply more targeted regulatory interventions where necessary. Prices will be tracked daily across retail outlets, with the data informing end-of-month assessments. The minister stated that the index is intended to serve as a foundation for evidence-based policymaking, adding that further initiatives to reinforce price controls are currently under consideration. Maldives Immigration deploys a real-time maritime tracking system in a bid to modernize port surveillance and reinforce operational capacity across the country's busiest seaborne gateway. Known as the Universal Automatic Identification System, or UAIS, the new platform is now fully operational through the agency's Seaport Division and facilitates continuous monitoring of all vessels within a 30 nautical mile radius of Male Port. The immigration agency characterized the initiative as a shift away from the labor-intensive procedures previously used to gather vessel data. Prior to the rollout, estimates of arrival times were compiled manually through coordination with the Maldives Customs Service and Maldives Ports Limited, or MPL, a process that frequently required personnel to engage directly with multiple institutions, according to a statement posted on X. UAIS now enables the Seaport Division to identify vessels' locations and movement schedules according to Maldives Immigration with greater speed and precision significantly lightening the administrative burden and improving responsiveness in port operations. Immigration authorities have noted that the system conforms to internationally recognized maritime protocols, similarly to those adopted in prominent global ports, to support safety enforcement and procedural integrity. In addition to its surveillance capabilities, Maldives Immigration expects UAIS to streamline clearance operations at Male Port and improve the overall standard of services intended to extend it to maritime traffic. Maldives Inland Revenue Authority, or MIRA, is set to recognize the highest taxpayers in the country in the past 15 years as part of its 50th anniversary celebrations. The Ranfanara Awards will be presented to the top 15 taxpayers in the past 15 years, aimed at recognizing the appreciating the highest taxpayers during this period. The awards will be presented at MIRA Annual Day celebrations, where the 15 highest taxpayers from the 1st of January 2011 to the 30th of June 2025 will be honored. All matters relating to the awards will be overseen by a committee appointed by the Commissioner General of Taxation. According to MIRA, any amount refunded will not be considered as paid by the taxpayer, while the committee will obtain written consent from the winners to present the award, as the information provided is protected from disclosure under the Taxation Act. Government signs an agreement with Maldives Industrial Fisheries Company Limited, or MIFCO, that will see the state-owned firm provide jobs and internship opportunities for people with disabilities. The Ministry of Social and Family Development said under the Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU, MIFCO will offer internships and jobs to persons with disabilities, to those under state care, and individuals facing financial hardship. The ministry said it will ensure that tasks and responsibilities assigned under the MOU are suitable to their respective physical capabilities. According to the ministry, such initiatives are designed to minimize the dependency on society by people with disabilities to ensure an inclusive and empowered society. The government, since taking office in November 2023, has initiated several efforts to create a favorable work environment for individuals with special needs while ensuring equal opportunities in the workplace. One of the key measures initiated by the government to achieve this goal is the formulation of a regulation designed to facilitate employment opportunities for people with disabilities. Publicized last year, the regulation aims to ensure that individuals with special needs receive equal employment and job opportunities. It sets out the rules to guarantee that individuals with disabilities enjoy their right to work. Furthermore, the ministry collaborated with Care Society Maldives to offer a 2-month training program for candidates registered for employment opportunities. This program aims to familiarize individuals with the work environment and enhance the necessary skills for their jobs. The government is also set to begin a nationwide initiative to make buildings and public spaces easily accessible to persons with disabilities, along with efforts to complete the National Register of Persons with Disabilities to gather essential information for providing necessary assistance. As of last month, over 14,000 individuals have registered. This initiative aims to ensure that people with disabilities can fully participate in society and access basic services, addressing the need for accurate data to support them effectively. South Africa outlined support measures for local companies that will be hit by a 30% U.S. tariff this week, including exemptions from some competition rules and financial support facilities. It also dismisses speculation that its failure to negotiate a lower tariff was because of its local affirmative action policies, which U.S. President Donald Trump has criticized. Africa's biggest economy has tried for months to negotiate a deal with Washington offering to buy U.S. liquefied natural gas and invest $3.3 billion in U.S. industries in a framework deal proposed to Trump's team. But the effort was unsuccessful even after Pretoria made a last-minute attempt to improve its offer. South African officials say the U.S. tariff could cause tens of thousands of job losses, especially in the agriculture and car-making industries, as Trump pushes to reshape global trade in favor of the United States. Addressing a press conference, South Africa's Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, said a block exemption from some aspects of the Competition Act was being developed that would allow competitors to collaborate and coordinate. He said the exemption would be published by the end of this week.
The US is South Africa's third biggest trading partner, with the European Union and China being the first and second largest trading partners. The US accounts for 7.5% of our global exports. Thus, we will continue to engage the US with a view to conclude a deal that advances the interests of both countries. South Africa seeks to conclude deals that promote value addition and industrialization, rather than extractive relations that deprive the country of the ability to beneficiate our mineral wealth by mimicking extractive colonial-era trade relations.
Lamola added that South Africa posed no trade threat to the U.S. economy nor its national security, emphasizing that its exports supported the U.S. industrial base and often do not compete with U.S. products. Lamola did not want to focus on speculation the country faces such a high tariff because of points of tension with the U.S., like its policies to address racial inequality or genocide case against Israel at the World Court, which Trump opposes. He said South Africa would continue to engage with U.S. counterparts on the basis of the framework deal it had submitted. Trade officials said an export support desk would try to help companies enter new markets by linking them up with embassies and potential buyers. A more detailed set of support measures will be discussed at a cabinet meeting on the 6th of August. U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker, tells that he expects many more countries to announce over the coming weeks that they will provide funds to buy American military equipment and ammunition for Ukraine using a new mechanism after the Netherlands said it would contribute 500 million euros to the scheme. U.S. Ambassador to NATO Matthew Whitaker states that the Dutch are just the first of many purchases of U.S. weapons and that the media will see a series of announcements in the coming weeks.
Today's announcement is regarding the Dutch and their purchase of the first package of equipment and munitions to be bought by the Dutch and to be provided through the NATO procedure.
The ambassador said many NATO members are coming together in groups to pool their money and their resources together to provide these armaments and munitions. U.S. President Donald Trump said last month the U.S. would supply weapons to Ukraine paid for by European allies, but did not provide details on how this could be done. Top-seeded Alexander Zverev bounces back after squandering 2 set points in the first set, rallied for a 6-7, 6-4 and 6-3 win over 18th-seeded Alexei Popyrin in the quarterfinals of the National Bank Open in Toronto. The 28-year-old German advances to face 11th-seeded Karen Khachanov of Russia, who defeated 26th-seeded Alex Michelson of the United States 6-4, 7-6 in the semifinals. Following a first set in which Zverev failed to take 2 chances to claim the tiebreaker, he established his dominance in each of the final 2 sets by establishing 3-0 leads. Popyrin managed to pull level in the second set before Zverev broke again in the last game. The third set featured just the lone service break. Zverev is 1-match victory away from his 4th final of the season after winning in Munich and finishing as runner-up at the Australian Open in Stuttgart. As Egypt's summer heat intensifies, so does the arrival of prickly pears. the beloved seasonal fruit offering sweet refreshment at a street-side price. But in recent years, soaring production costs have driven up prices from farms to fruit carts, slightly dampening demand this season. Once famous as a cheap street snack, prickly pears now carry higher production costs, a farm owner in Al-Qaliubia Governorate north of Cairo explained, as the harvest is overshadowed by surging costs of supplies and labor. Mahmoud Abu Farag, a prickly pear farm owner in Al-Qaliubia, says that a sack used to cost around 200 Egyptian pounds, approximately $4.11 as of August 3rd. Highlighting the price surge over the past 5 years, he said he get the sack of agricultural chemicals from the black market for 1,300 to 1,500 Egyptian pounds, around 26.71 to 30.82 dollars. He added that daily wages have tripled and transport costs have also jumped. By the time the fruit reaches Cairo's streets, its price has more than doubled. Street vendor Syed Muhammad said higher costs are starting to turn buyers away, even though the fruit remains a seasonal favorite. Food prices in Egypt, including fruits, are often among the earliest indicators of broader inflationary pressures as they respond quickly to shifts in input costs like energy and transport. In April 2025, the government raised the price of diesel fuel, the main fuel used for goods transport, by about 15% to 15.50 Egyptian pounds per liter, approximately $0.32, which has fed directly into food prices. Official data from Compass shows that fruit prices jumped 62% year-on-year in April 2025, 63.5% in May, and 68.7% in June, despite annual urban inflation easing to 14.9% in June, down from 16.3% in May. And that's all the news we have for today. We'll be back with any further updates. Until then, I'm Abdullah Ahil from PSN News.